Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unfiltered Vet Discussions. My name is Kelly, and I'm being joined by Beth and Peter today. You can see our profiles and more professional photos than what we're sporting today at the Unfiltered Vet Discussions .com. We're also on all the popular platforms for social media and podcasts. So just wander over, like, follow, share, and comment. We'd love to hear from you. So today our topic is, and I had to write it down because I'm dyslexic, so I wouldn't mess up the order because I did like 5 times before we hit the record button, is the next most important thing. And Beth, you can give us some background about that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words.
Yes, I can. So we were just talking about I have this tattoo on my arm, and Peter was asking what it was about. And so I gave the backstory of it, which it is a piece of a patent. So my father, who passed away 2 years ago, was an aerospace engineer. So he was literally a rocket scientist, super, super smart man. He was an entrepreneur. He started several businesses and just inspired me a lot in my personal life. So when he passed away, I actually got this tattoo as a piece of one of his very early patents that had to do with like circuitry in space shuttles or something. I don't even really understand. It's like beyond my understanding. But he drew that, and then it has his signature, and then underneath it it has my favorite piece of advice that he ever gave me, which is do the next most important thing. And what that goes back to, so the story behind when he told me that is I was starting my practice. And in the beginning, anyone who has started a business, started practice knows like there are a lot of irons in a lot of fires. And it is super overwhelming. And when we were trying to, get the business up and running legally and then get supplies and then figure out the computer system and be seeing patients. And I was working 3 different jobs at the time, and it was like really overwhelming. And I just remember one day I called him like hysterically crying. I'm very emotional. And I was like, I just am so overwhelmed. I don't think I can do this. Like, there's too many things to do. And I just was like going on and on and on. And he like let me get it out. And then once I calmed down, he was like, the only thing you have to do is the next most important thing. Everything else has to wait. So, what is the next most important thing? And I told him, and he was like, okay, do that. Then, when that's done, look at your list again. What is the next most important thing? And just keep doing that until your list becomes more manageable, until you feel in a better place. And it's one of those things that I feel like is simple but not easy because it's like a key principle of prioritization, which is why we were like, oh, we should talk about this because prioritization is really hard when you have a lot of things going on and you have to wear several different hats. So I feel like it is absolutely something that people in veterinary medicine have to do, from like the nurses, from the doctors, even the management team, to looking at health of your practice. What is the next thing you should focus on? Like there's so many ways you could talk about this.
So many ways. And like you said, it's hard. And I think this goes for any small business, right? Like there's moving parts in so many small businesses. I was had a group of ladies over last night for dinner, so this is a great topic to talk about business. They were vendors from my farmers market that I started this year, and when they were each in a different phase of their business, so they each had different problems, right? But each one got stuck about, well, what's next? What's my priority? How do I get past it? How do I find responses to that? And the thing that I find that's hard personally for me is once I make my top 3 priorities is sticking to them, because the shiny, the spandex squirrel, as I call it, that's running across, like, ooh, bright and shiny. What is he doing or she doing? Is really alluring because that's more fun than just sticking through the first priority and seeing it to the end. I don't like doing that because it's boring,
Mhm.
right? And stressful.
Yeah, well, it's the adage of chasing 2 squirrels and you catch neither of them. Um, in the veterinary profession, as a former practitioner and consultant and coach and everything else, um, we need to learn how to not just triage in the treatment room or on the telephone, but we need to learn how to triage our businesses as well. And the to-do list um, tends to be just put down in order of what you think, but not in order of priority. Brian Tracy wrote a wonderful book called Eat That Frog, which talks about the most onerous, ugly task, the one that you really don't want to do, is a frog. And the best way to start your day is to eat that frog. Do the
Mm.
task that may not be the one that will accomplish the most, but will free you up to accomplish everything else because it won't be just sitting on your plate waiting to be metaphorically eaten from that standpoint. So doing the next most important thing is really triage. It's looking at the list of things that you need to do, and in your case, it was during your startup, and was the next most important thing to go to Staples and buy a case of paper, or was the next most important thing to call the electric company and make sure you actually had electricity going to your business? It
Right.
would have been a lot more fun to go to Staples and walk around the aisles and disconnect from everything else. Um, but that probably wouldn't have been the most effective outcome from that standpoint. So I think that the topic is spot on, and it really is about triage. It
Mhm.
is prioritization. And we tend to always look at the low-hanging fruit instead of necessarily climbing to the tree and getting the fruity fruit from the top of the tree.
Mhm. And I feel like this parallels with what we were talking about a little bit before we started recording too, that right now a lot of veterinarians, and I've been seeing in some of my practice owners groups that people are slowing down. And
Mhm.
I think sometimes when people get nervous that the business is a little less slow, they do reach for that low hanging fruit of like, okay, what's a band-aid to this situation of like accepting new clients or calling people with overdue reminders and things. But sometimes if you try to take a step back and look at the bigger picture and analyze the business as a whole, like even though that's one of the simplest ways to address the problem now, we probably need to be looking at the bigger picture, and we probably should have addressed this like a month or two ago before we got to the point where there's like a crisis, to have something in place already because you've looked ahead to say, okay, this time of year we tend to slow down, or we're watching the economy slow down. We're anticipating that we're going to slow down. So the next most important thing as far as long-term practice health is something that you should probably be looking out several months in advance and making a plan for if and when you slow down. So then if it happens, it's much easier to implement instead of, panicking.
Oh, but panicking, come on, that's an adrenaline rush. It gets you going, it eats up a few hours.
Yeah, it's
I'll
great.
take that at the gym. I'll take that walking the dog on a bike ride or something like that. I don't need in clinical practice, give me an appointment any day. Don't give me an emergency. I don't
Okay.
need an adrenaline rush. Um, because running a business is an adrenaline rush all day.
All day. And it's a
Sure.
risk. Everybody's like,
Yep.
do you gamble? I'm like, yeah, I own a business. What do you do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Well, it also fits into globally, not necessarily with respect to the quote. It fits into a mantra that I use for a number of the talks, which is Wanji, Wonji, work on, not just in your business. And most veterinarians and even owners, Beth, Kelly, are embedded so deeply in their business that working in the business, getting the tasks done is a priority, and working on the business is reactive. So as I mentioned a quote that I read earlier this morning that says we're starting to accept new clients for the first time in 3 years. If you're doing so now, it means the problems were months prior or you should have identified this months prior. And the only way you can do that is to constantly be keeping a finger on the pulse of what's going on. And that's when you would recognize to do the next most important thing. At that point in time, it's gone from proactive to reactive. And, that's the adrenaline rush is the reactive. Proactive is just a normal baseline heart rate.
Yeah. And I mean, it is hard to do. Like, I struggle with this myself. There's many, many times where I feel like it's tough for my practice manager because I recognize that I am the rate limiting step on stuff because I am still practicing on the floor. So I split my time between managing with her and being a veterinarian because I do legitimately enjoy both, which, is a struggle in and of itself because I recognize that in some ways it would probably be a lot better for my business if I just managed it because it is a big enough project that it could require all of my attention. But I just do the best I can by splitting my time. But it absolutely becomes very challenging at times when we have to have like a difficult conversation that both of us need to be present for. That she's like, okay, well, can we do it Thursday after your surgery day? Oh, no, I have to go do this house call euthanasia now. And then the conversation has to get moved. And it can become really, really hard. Like it is a difficult thing when you do both that I find myself constantly reprioritizing. And some of the stuff that's like time dependent, that's not actually a priority, but has to happen that day, like seeing this client or seeing this appointment or whatever, becomes a hard thing to navigate when then it disrupts me being able to work on my business instead of in my business, because now I'm a slave to being in my business at those times.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, number one, I'll ask it as a question. According to Forbes magazine a number of years ago, what do you think is the number one success principle for small businesses? What is the number one thing successful small business owners are able to do to become more successful?
Ooh,
Okay.
I feel like maybe it's delegate.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Sorry, I woke the
Yes.
dog up.
I didn't even know that answer, but I got it right. Ha.
Yes, you did. It is
Candy bar to you.
it is the ability to
Very
delegate.
hard.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so as you go through your to-do list or do the next most important thing, does it have to be a Kelly task? Does it have to be a Beth task? Or can the next most important thing be done by your manager, an associate veterinarian, a receptionist? So as you go through your triage, if you set up the outcome, can you delegate it to somebody else to go through the process?
Mm, yeah.
Hmm.
Which that I yeah, agreed. I delegate a lot to try to help myself, and Kira, my practice manager, she's like instrumental in that, and we have like a shared to-do list that we both work off of, and every week we try to sit down and kind of go through, all right, what are our priorities for the week? And share between the two of us who's working on what can I give her, what can she delegate to the people below her. We try to do that weekly, which I feel like really, really helps to just keep the finger on the pulse of knowing what she's working on, and so she can know what I'm working on. And then also, like, do these tasks need to be us? Can someone else be the one to take that task to free us up for something more important?
Yeah, we almost do that every day sometimes. I'll go and say, what are your top three priorities today? Because we can't have any rabbit holes or bright and shinies to be looking at some of them. Um, so we kind of all get on the same page because sometimes we do find, oh no, you shouldn't be working on that rabbit hole. Like, why did you choose this rabbit hole that you're going down? Right.
Mhm.
And like you said, there's certain tasks I should never do detailed work. As we say here, I'm like there's a pond and I'm the stone skipping across the pond. I'm going fast and the pond's the company and I hit it and I come And then there's other people who dive down into the weeds and make sure all the details are there. I am not that person. That will end poorly if you expect me to do that. Nope. Mm-mm. So we have our job roles. We just got to make sure we're on the same page almost every day. So,
So as three small business owners,
mhm,
we are faced with multiple tasks that we do, which is technical work essentially. We're first faced with management work, which is to get all those tasks done. And then we're faced with the big picture entrepreneurial tasks, which are those that will allow your business to go from where you are to where you want to see it go. The problem that we have is we're constantly juggling those in our brains. So when you're in an exam room, Beth, in the back of your mind is this crucial conversation you need to have. And also, maybe we need to increase our marketing, or
Mm-hmm.
we need to work on our budget. And so here you are in the exam room with a vomiting, diarrhea, standard poodle, trying to figure out what's going on while your brain is running around in three different directions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's really hard as a small business owner to multitask because it takes away from where your focus is. And so part of doing the next most important thing is to strictly focus on the task in front of you, complete that task, eat the frog, and then go on to the next task. Because when you are distracted, some one of those multiple things that are balancing there will be dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's the patient, it could truly be more upsetting than any of the other tasks that are there. So that's where the term triage comes in, which is the most important thing. And the ability, and I did this too when I was in practice, the ability to separate yourself into individual roles. And when I'm on the floor, I'm on the floor. When I'm
Mm-hmm.
in my office, I'm in my office. And when I'm at home, I'm at home. But we tend to bring everything together, and it looks like something out of what I would call the Ed Sullivan show from the good old days of how many plates can you have spinning at the same time before a plate hits the ground.
Yeah. Because that is really hard to do. It is so hard. I
mhm.
struggle, and I have set administrative days where I'm not on the floor at all, and it is dedicated time to like have our weekly check-ins, to do our meetings, to work on the business. But I find like, it's an imperfect system. So there are times where like an employee has a sick pet and they're like, "Can you just look at my cat real quick that's sick?" And I'm like, "Sure." Or then there's a conversation that I really should be a part of that employee doesn't work on the day that I'm on admin. So now I'm trying to squeeze it in over my lunch in between appointments. And man, that really sucks. It is really hard to do. And then to feel fully present in those situations because then I'm already like looking at the time and being like, okay, we're having this meeting. I care about this person. I want to let them talk, but oh my God, they're blathering on and on and on. And I have an appointment in 15 minutes and I haven't had any time to eat my lunch or like make any of my calls. And then I'm just on the inside screaming a little bit because it's very hard to do. And even when you prioritize to the best of your ability, there are still those situations and times that arise that you just have to navigate, even if it's not ideal. We try to put a lot of stuff in place to minimize how often that happens. And it happens so much less now that I've done a really good job of what you were just saying, Peter. Like, if I'm wearing my doctor hat, I'm wearing my doctor hat. Like, this has to wait. Unless it is a true emergency, I need to be able to just be a doctor today. And then on the days that I'm administrative, I try to be like, can one of the other associates look at your animal? Like, because I'm administrative today, I'm not on the floor. But it is hard to do, very hard.
Yeah. So, Kelly, from your standpoint, what is the most productive utilization of your time to give the highest return to Beyond Indigo?
Um, Making sure the overall priorities and vision is straight for the company, and then checking in with the next layer of management that they're on the same priority list, or if anything is bubbled up from other places in the company that need to be addressed and have the priorities readjusted. Because stuff happens in life and things come up that we never plan on. So you gotta just kind of factor those in. And then I always like to make sure I'm like, are there any bottlenecks? Am I a bottleneck for you? Do I need to get you anything so that you can do your job? Because Beth, if you're counting on like me, like you, I don't want to be that person, but sometimes I'm that person for a bottleneck. And I just need to get out of, I don't like that position. So let's just get me out of that and get you the resources you need to continue onwards. So that's kind of what I do on a daily basis is just start there, Peter, to see where the ecosystem is flowing and where maybe it's cascading to failure. Um, just for example, like half the team out sick for whatever reason, so then what do we do? Who's managing the clients? What are the protocols that we have in place? Is anybody activating those? Yada, yada. And, sometimes that happens, even in virtual company, we don't even work in the same building. Half are out sick. I'm like, how did that work? But it
Yeah,
does.
so when you get pulled into a sales call, when you get called by a programmer, when you have to think about the marketing plan, it distracts from your primary focus, doesn't it?
It does, but I don't do those things anymore. So,
Ah, stop right there.
yeah.
So you have been able to um, silo yourself.
Yep.
Now, let's turn to Beth and ask the same question. What is the most highly productive, gives the greatest return to your business?
Gee, I have conflicting feelings on this because I think part of the answer is when I have time to not be on the floor and look at what's working, look at what's not working, and be able to talk to my team and give them feedback and coach them. But I also feel like sometimes having my presence on the floor is very instrumental in making sure the team is being efficient, doing things the way I want them to do them because I'm like there with them, but definitely still more impactful in a leadership role. Like I definitely recognize my leadership role is more important than me being a veterinarian, but I really like being a veterinarian, which is why it's been very hard for me
All right,
to do.
so if I add to that, which of the roles that you have gives the highest financial return to your business? Is it being the leader or is it being the doctor? And how can you measure the outcomes of both?
Ooh. Well, hour for hour, dollar for dollar, myself and my business partner are biggest producers on the floor. That's for sure. I think it is harder to know the direct financial benefit from my leadership. Um, but I would say I am the most visible, influential leader to my team. So a lot of my coaching helps them be better and do better, which then in turn financially helps the business. So, but I don't actually know how to put a number on that because that's
It,
hard to do.
well, we know how to measure your veterinary production, right?
Yeah.
It's how much you bill, and you pay yourself, let's just say you pay yourself like an associate 20% of your production. So
Yep.
you know what your value is from that standpoint. The question is, can you measure the value that you have in working on your business by motivating your staff to produce more, by doing a budget, by do strategic planning, etc. So it's much easier because you're not siloed like Kelly is. In fact, it would be great if you were because you could measure the different things. But you see where I'm going with this is what is your most productive? And if you have a really great manager, do you need to manage or do you need to lead? Could you give up a hat that's strictly management and just be the visionary?
Yeah.
Could you, and when I talk about management, it's the tasks. When I talk about visionary, it's the outcome, the big picture outcome. Because in all likelihood, you're the top producing veterinarian. And if you were to go off the floor, your practice would suffer unless you're such a great leader that everybody else in the practice can be productive and it doesn't depend on you. So your practice is still very dependent upon you. When you can get to the point, as Kelly has done, where the business isn't dependent upon her on a day-to-day operational basis, then you basically have a place on the beach while the practice runs without you.
Yeah.
Did that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I've had this debate many times with veterinary friends of like, where is my time best spent? Because I have mixed feelings about it and it's not a black and white situation. And I think it makes it very muddy that I legitimately enjoy the multiple aspects of it. Because if I like hated being a leader, like my business partner, she does not enjoy being a leader. She's fine helping behind the scenes with like practice direction, and she loves being a veterinarian, and she's a high producer too. She's a great veterinarian. So that's like where it makes sense for her to go. But I really enjoy being a leader. I enjoy motivating the team. I enjoy coaching them and helping them learn to do better from the veterinarians to the CSRs to the nurses, everything in between. Like I do enjoy that. But I also really love being one-on-one in an exam room with a client and a patient. So it makes it hard because I think then it kind of holds me back a little bit because I haven't been able to like commit to one, which is some of the advice I've gotten is like you just have to commit to one because you can't ever really do either exactly effectively if you keep splitting your time, which I recognize is true, but I just have not been able to do it.
So do something for me, since you are still multi-siloed. Take the next month or two and note how much time you spend in each silo. So if you're strictly in the clinics doing outpatient surgery, etc., from 8 to 6, you're spending 10 hours as a technician or as a doctor. If you're in the clinic to be the leader, but you're for 10 hours, but you're distracted and have to go into an exam room or talk to a staff member, then you're going to have, let's say, 8 hours of management and 2 hours of, again, clinical or whatever. And then how much time do you actually spend bigger picture? And then look at how much you're compensated for each of those days. Because when you're not in the exam room, are you paying yourself as a manager slash leader, or that comes out secondarily as ROI when you take a dividend check or payment at the end of the year?
Mm,
But take a look at how you're using your time.
yeah.
Because
I really,
your goal is to be like Kelly, who has a great team, but she's the visionary.
Mhm.
But how many years did it take you to get there, Kelly? Because I remember the dark days.
Oof, long time. Good 20, easy. And it's
yeah, see,
something
I'm
that
still like in the trenches. I'm still in there,
yeah,
digging through the shit.
and it's twofold, right? Like from my personal experience, case study of one, kind of what Peter was saying, it's twofold. One, you have to be willing to let it go and go, okay, because I love meeting people. I love talking to people. I love seeing what their problems are and solving those from a marketing standpoint and point of view, right? But I had to fulfill that piece of me in other areas, like to find that and say, okay, the team's actually better without me in the mix was, the answer for there. Like, don't mess with them. They're doing fine. So then, and I'm not saying this is the answer for you, but it was for me. So then I started a farmer's market because then it's short term on a Saturday, 8 to 12. I can go talk to people and help solve their problems and make some things for the town. And then I get to go home and it's done. Like I'm not carrying it onwards. Like, I'm not up at midnight working on it, but I'm just using that as an example that
Mhm.
I had to do. But to do that, I had to find the people who worked well with me where I'm at, because we all change and evolve as human beings all the time. So who we were 20 years ago are not who we are today. So 20 years ago, Kelly needed something different than today Kelly needs. But it doesn't mean I can let, I constantly am just checking all the plates every single day. I have a list. I know what they are. Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Are we all on priorities or are we all on task? Is there any deviations? And then I let them go to do it. But it took me a while to get there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's just an interesting conversation, and again, comes back from a tattoo, um, which is an interesting place to start a conversation. But doing the next most important thing, when you put it on your arm, you didn't think about all of these ramifications in this conversation, did you?
No. No, but I'm
And in fact,
delighted.
when we brought it up, before the recording started, it was kind of like just the story of you and the relationship with your dad.
Mhm.
So you never know how your dad was going to have this impact on you, a couple of years after his death and a couple of years after the quote, and how that you would influence others through this podcast in taking his message and going forward.
Yeah,
Mhm. Which
which
is
I
really
love.
cool.
And I hope it helps somebody else to look at it that way. Because I think about it all the time when I start to get overwhelmed. I'm like, okay, let's actually look at the list and like, what are the things that need to happen today? Pick two or three and then reprioritize. But it's like, I mean, whether you're looking small picture at that day or bigger picture that year or really big picture, where should I be spending my time as the health of my business over the next 20 years? There's
Yeah.
all different ways that really is on small scale to big scale, something that people should really be doing in their everyday life, for sure.
So between now and the next time I'm on one of these calls with you, Beth, I expect you to have a picture of your dad, maybe a picture of your dad with you, and that quote on it right behind you on the wall.
Okay. I'll have to send you a picture. So I have that. So my business partner, Jen, gave it to me that she had a picture of us printed and it says the quote underneath it and it's at my work and it sits right next to my desk so I can look at it whenever I need to look at it. So I'll send you a picture so you can see
Okay.
it because I've already got it.
Yeah, well, the fact that it's at work and you're at home today, that's just a different venue, but that's fine. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure you actually had that from that
Yes,
standpoint.
I do.
All right. So I'm not going to get that tattoo on my arm, but I do love the quote, do the next most important thing.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a good one. And definitely something I think everyone, no matter your walk of life, no matter where you are, no matter what you're working on, it's helpful. It's a helpful way to reframe, especially when you're starting to feel overwhelmed. It is absolutely something that has helped me out of many, many situations where I was starting to feel like I didn't know which way to turn.
And I would add to help close it up for today, after you've listened all the way to the end of this podcast, thank you. Wherever you are, just take a second and think about your top three priorities for the rest of the day. And are you doing them or are you down a rabbit hole or following a squirrel somewhere? Right? All right.
Agreed.
Until then, adieu. We will catch you next time on Unfiltered Vet Discussions.